Hello there, and welcome back to the Net Report. Chris here, and today I'm joined with my co host Jacob. And today we're here to talk about the results of the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And we're going to just go with the heavy hitter right away. We're going to start with Chiefs versus Bills. Chiefs defeat the Bills 27 to 24. And man, this was just a heartbreaker of a game for the Bills. We, of course, had the late game field goal miss, and it was an insane game. It's such a bummer to see. Someone had to lose. Both teams played amazing up until the fourth quarter, where the Chiefs defense finally got a stop. And, unfortunately for the Bills, they were the one who ended up losing this game. But wow, what a game. Tell me what you saw, Jacob, because wow, that was one heck of a game.
I saw two teams that didn't play great, if
Mhm.
we're going to be honest, and to dispute you. A lot is being said around the social medias, attacking Sean McDermott, attacking Josh Allen as specific targets for what happened here. I think the one person who is without blame is going to be Josh Allen. There's a lot of memes of just how he's constantly being taken out of this divisional round or second or third
Mhm.
round in the playoffs. But I don't know how you look at this game and say, yep, Josh Allen was the problem. Like
Mhm.
I know the box score 186 passing yards isn't exciting, but
But
he
he was
also
a
had 72
monster.
rushing yards and
On
he
the
pretty
ground.
much controlled that game. Three touchdowns is still three touchdowns.
I will
As a
counter you.
collective,
I will
no, go
counter
ahead.
you on this. Yes, in the fourth quarter, there were a lot of really rough play call decisions and whatnot, especially throughout the first three quarters. It was very back and forth, and both teams, I would say, played well. You couldn't, I definitely agree to an extent. The fourth quarters where we saw some sloppy football, you had the McCole Hardman fumble, you had the horrible call with the fake punt, but for the most part, I feel like it was very back and forth, at least to start the game for the first, definitely
Yeah,
the
I mean,
first half.
you can play a great game for three quarters,
Mm-hmm.
but if you play a bad game for one quarter in the fourth, then ultimately that's what I'm going to judge you on,
Mm-hmm.
just because that's ultimately what's going to matter.
No,
That
that's
seems like a
fair.
very black and white, stark way to look at things, but when in the fourth quarter you turn it over on downs because of an awful, 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 awful call with running a fake punt with Damar Hamlin, like I don't know what that was meant to do. I mean, I know what it was meant to do, but it was just awful. And then they got bailed out. The Bills literally
Mm-hmm.
got bailed out with their awful call when
Touchback
McCole
rule,
Hardman
man.
decided to go full sicko mode and fumble the ball like a second grader, and then they just went three and out right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they stop the Chiefs.
And
After
that
they go three and out and punt it, they stop the Chiefs. They go all the way down the field. It's looking like, hey, we might get an overtime game. This has some. This might be a crazy game. And then Tyler Bass misses the field goal.
mhm.
Um.
And that was kind of just the
So
theme of the fourth quarter, just the inability to convert and the inability to really one take the points you had it, but also there were so many instances. Of course, everyone's pointing to, I believe it was third and nine or second. It was one of the two play. One of is either second down or third down. I don't remember exactly, but he had Stephon Diggs wide open on the flat, and they, of course, he could have gotten the first down, run out some clock, and Mahomes doesn't really get the chance to get the ball back. But or if they make the field goal, or they have another first down so they can convert. But of course, that's not what happened. Allen, and then he has the miss to Shakir in the end zone. It was just it was rough at the end, but aside from that, man, I still think Josh Allen played an amazing game. So.
oh no, I'm not gonna blame Josh Allen
Mhm.
for this. I mean, when Stephon Diggs has three catches on eight targets, and
Mhm.
I mean that your number one guy. I mean, all credit in the world to the Chiefs offense. Like we
Oh, they were
went up and down about
fantastic
how we were
too.
concerned. Like I mean, Valdez Scantling showed up, or at least showed up for two catches. That's all that
Mhm.
mattered.
They were
All that
big
matters, he showed up for
catches.
two catches.
They
No,
they
they were huge and timely
mhm.
catches. Those are what mattered. The defense, for the most part, played a good game for the Chiefs. They contained Josh Allen as best as they could. I won't say they contained him, but they did the best job that they could. And that does kind of give you some context for what we might see next week
Mhm.
against Lamar Jackson, but I mean the Chiefs won. There was some bad reffing calls on both sides. I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed in the Bills. I mean, I really, really, really thought they had it, and
This
it's
was their
just
best shot for sure.
the window is closing on the Bills. Just to kind of
Mm-hmm.
go a full year recap of the Bills, Josh Allen's window isn't closing, but this team around Josh Allen is closing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his defense is by no means getting any younger. They don't really have as many weapons on defense as people might think they do. They have some big leaders, but they don't really have that many guys like that you can build this defense around. They don't really have that many offensive guys either. I mean, James Cook is cool, like awesome, but Stephon Diggs is getting older and kind of fell off a cliff at the end
Mm-hmm.
of this year. Like
Gabe
hard
Davis
fell off a
is
cliff.
Gabe Davis is very hit or miss. Shakir's been kind of a nice like surprise, but you're talking ideally that's your third receiver. This
Yeah,
is this
and
this was their best chance, and I don't want to say I don't see the
I
roster
agree. And
getting better because we just don't know like what's going to happen in the offseason, but man, it hurts. It really hurts if you're a Bills fan.
does. And to wrap it up, I mean, no disrespect. I know we're talking a lot about the Bills, but I mean, like, what am I gonna say about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? Like, their offense did what it did. Like,
Hmm. they
he
they
made
really.
timely plays. He didn't play out of his mind crazy, but
Hmm.
he did what he needed to do to win the game. And I think that if he's gonna win next week, he will have to play out of his mind crazy.
Hmm.
But
It was just it
we'll
was
touch on
just
that later.
it was just too easy for them to it was just too easy for them to expose the Bills' weaknesses defensively, especially with that thin linebacking core. But they did what they had to do, and shout out to the Chiefs. They're headed on to the conference championship.
Again. But that's going to lead us into our other AFC matchup, and it was a really good game for half of it.
Hmm.
Ravens and Texans. Ravens ultimately won 34-10, and if you only watch the first half, you're surprised by that score because it was 10-10 going into half. The Texans were really controlling the Ravens offensively. Houston had no offensive line, and ultimately, what wore them down is that.
Hmm.
They had no offensive line. C.J. Stroud had no time to throw. There was no real ability to get the deep ball going with Nico Collins. And ultimately, what the Ravens just is, they just kept running the ball, running the ball. And as any offensive or defense coordinator will tell you, if you can control the run game, you're more than likely going to win. They
Hmm.
ran the ball 42 times. Nearly double what they did with passing. Lamar Jackson only threw the ball 22 times compared to 40. Rushing attempts, they averaged 5.5 yards a carry between four backs, Lamar included. You're going to wear a defense down. You just are, especially for a Texans team who just played last week. The Ravens didn't. So it's as easy to sum up as that. I mean, the Ravens are the more talented team. They're they're the better coach team, and the stats don't show it. Stroud never got sacked in the game, but he was under constant pressure. They had
Hmm.
no ability to throw the ball downfield, and when you can't throw the ball down the field against a top three defense, you're just not going to
You're
win
in
the game.
trouble, especially down multiple scores. Like once the game started getting blown open.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's a theme with a lot of the young teams, especially like with the QBs and a rookie contract. Like just O line kind of letting them down, and like that's kind of the Achilles heel. I mean, you saw it a lot with the Bengals early on. I mean, you see it with,
You still see
even
it with
saw
the
it.
Jags.
You even saw with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, like and I know that's different because they had already won a championship, but I mean, it's the expected outcome.
They'll win and die games in the line of scrimmage, whether it's defense or offense. You will win
Hmm.
and die by the offensive line trench play.
It's the expected
Yeah.
outcome. I mean, one thing we didn't really highlight too, which I want to highlight, Lamar played phenomenal. I mean, people
Oh
who
no.
casuals are
People who
gonna
watched
look
our
at
video
the
last week will
casuals are
people who
gonna
watched
look.
our video last week will say that
Mhm.
I disrespected Lamar and all this sort of stuff, and I did. I did not think this performance was coming out, and he came out and scored 4 touchdowns efficiently, very efficiently. This might be Lamar Jackson's like actual coming out party. I
Mm.
know he already won an MVP, but this would be
Playoff
huge
coming
for him.
out party. I mean, next week is going to be the big test, like the big test. But people, like I was going to say earlier, people are going to look at the box score and be like, 16 for 22, 152 yards. Look, you do what you have to do to win. And then he had 100 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Like, when you're able, in this Ravens offense with Lamar, when he's able to control the game like that, he's able to put the ball on the ground, he's rushing for over 10 times a game, like over the last few games. He's able to really just control it. And if a team can't contain him, look out. This Ravens offense is scary. And I mean, that's going to be the Chiefs' biggest challenge next week. But I'm happy for Lamar. I'm happy for the Ravens because, a lot of people were counting them out. No shade to you, Jacob, but a lot of people were counting them out, and I'm really hoping Lamar. I'm happy for Lamar because he's reversing that stigma that quarterbacks of his type can't win at the highest level, and next week's going to be such a big game for that.
It helps to win at the highest level when your defense is playing
It's fair too,
one of the greatest
100%
units
fair.
in the league. Like that helps. But when you build your team around a rushing offense, that also helps. Like they've got, which is crazy to think about. Keaton Mitchell and J.K. Dobbins are out. They're running through Justice Hill and Gus Edwards.
And
They
they're
have
still
Dalvin Cook
efficient.
coming out. Yeah, these guys are still rushing for 4 to 5 yards a carry. Like it's insane. It goes. It comes down to scheme and the offensive line play. Like you can plug and play any running back, but because the scheme is so good with Lamar and the offensive line and the movement, it doesn't matter. The holes are just going to be there. I can rush through these holes.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Maybe 1 to 2 yards if we're tush pushing you. But hey man, I don't know, man.
I'll accept 2 yards. Don't worry.
I'd be shocked if you could get 2 yards out there. But
that's 2 more than Jalen Hurts got at the end zone last week.
Listen here, that wound's still fresh. You did not have to do that to me, man. You did not have to do that to me. But
anyways. Moving on to the more exciting game of the week. Packers and Niners. How are all my Niners fans doing? I bet y'all are sweating this one out.
Yeah, very
ultimately,
close.
Ultimately, a one-score game. The game ended up coming down to an Anders Carlson missed field goal late in the fourth. Then the Niners get the ball back, and Christian McCaffrey, I know, everyone, hold on to your butts. He rushed for a touchdown. Shocker, I know. This was a scary one for the Niners. I mean, they won. They didn't look impressive, but it's a playoff game, so there's some leeway to be had. But they were a 2-score favorite in this game. They never looked it. For the most part, the Packers had control of this game for about 95% of the game. It's very hard to put in words what I expect for the Niners going forward. The defense looked abysmal. Jordan Love, we'll get to him in a second, but he looks legit. But this defense, it on paper, it's a lot of names, but I'm not really seeing the play. Like they got beat pretty bad a couple times in their secondary. The defensive line kind of just seemed non-existent for periods of time. Aaron Jones was having his way with this with this defensive line. He was rushing through everything.
I will say this though, and it was a point a lot of the talking heads on like ESPN and the big sports shows kind of went over. The 49ers have, especially the offense, they haven't played like really in a month. They had that week off and they rested in week 18. A lot of the defense was out too. They're really ramping back up. As much as I want to say, wow, are the Niners legit? I think this is the game to get them back on pace. The one thing that is concerning, like you said, Aaron Jones running for that much yards. I didn't think the run game for the Packers would be that effective against this 49ers defense. I was dead wrong. If they're not able to, if the Niners are not able to shore this up in the future, it's gonna be bad for them because that run defense just was not what it needed to be. But I think everything else they'll be able to shore up. It's just a matter of, hey, we haven't played our starters in so long. Now we're a little rusty, and it happens. But it's not.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad excuse. I'm sorry. That's just not an acceptable excuse. Like, had they lost this game, like
100%.
This game, like that's not an acceptable answer.
No, but when it mattered, Brock Purdy did lead them to that go-ahead drive. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, it was in the pouring rain too. It was a lot of dink and dunks, but they worked his way down the field, and it was enough to win. I don't want to make it more than it is, but they're gonna have to ramp it up if they want to win next week.
I'm not saying it's more than it is. I'm just saying I'm concerned. I'm just concerned.
They're not as much of a juggernaut as I thought they were last week. I will say that.
Yeah, That's a good way of saying it.
I wouldn't pencil them
We'll
in
see.
like 100% next week. I still think they're the favorites.
Yes, they would also be my favorites going into next week, but it won't surprise me, man. Like I've watched Kyle Shanahan favorited teams go out and just like lay a goose egg. After this week, I'm concerned that's what's going to happen again next week, but I really want to highlight the Packers here. Like, there were moments in this game where Chris and I were texting back and forth. It's like, it's literally just Aaron Rodgers all over again. Like, what team gets this lucky? And this
No,
is coming
yeah.
from a Patriot fan. Brett
Yeah.
Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Everyone joked about Jordan Love for years. Even when he started last year, he looked terrible. And they're 9-8. But Jordan Love, the second half of this season, has turned it up.
Mhm.
The box score will not show it. His stats are not eye appealing, but Jordan Love had control of this game.
Mhm.
Jordan Love looked fantastic. That offense looked fantastic. And that's part of what bothers me about the Niners. On paper, 1-to-1 matchup, there's no one area the Packers are better than the Niners. Any skill position, defense or offense. It's mind blowing that this game was this close. They were right there. Anders Carlson missed a chip shot to
Yep.
have this game tied. It maybe changed if they go for the 2 points when Christian McCaffrey runs that in, but it's just mind blowing to me.
I will
I,
say this too. That's the thing that's gonna suck about this game too. Jordan Love had such a great stretch down the season, and what a lot of people are gonna remember, unfortunately, is that last interception, which we all know was a bad throw, cross body into coverage. But my goodness,
it's
man,
the
like,
rookie. That's the rookie in him.
mhm. Maybe not a rookie, but I mean, I always call quarterbacks who like haven't played a full starter season rookies, but everyone gets the point, you know. I think the Packers' future is very bright with Jordan Love, and I'm excited to see them next year because it's only going to go up from here. Like you said, 49ers need to turn it up, but I really think they will next week. But we'll get more into that into our predictions later. But yeah, that leads us to the perfect segue to who the 49ers will be facing in the conference championship. Lions defeat the Bucks 31-23, and this game was a lot closer than I anticipated. But the Lions ultimately got it done. Jared Goff and this offense looked pretty darn good. They went, I believe, in the fourth quarter was up to 31-17. Buccaneers score failed 2-point conversion, so it's 31-23. And unfortunately, at the very end, after the Lions stall out, the Buccaneers get a chance, and Baker Mayfield throws a pick to seal their fate. But honestly, I'm just happy for this Lions team as a whole. I mean, Dan Campbell, the coaching's been great. It's been one heck of a season, and I'm rooting for them going forward. I don't know about their chances against the 49ers, but I liked what I saw from this game. I thought the offense was flowing pretty darn well. I mean, like I said, I think they probably should have beat the Bucks by more, but honestly, it's the Lions, man. I'm not gonna take anything away. I feel like we're being too harsh on the Niners and too nice to the Lions, but I feel like this game, as much as I think the Lions should have won, I'm not surprised it was close either, if that makes sense.
I'm not surprised this game was as close as it was, and to be very honest with you, it wasn't. This
Hmm.
game really came down to
No,
some
no.
garbage time stuff. I mean, this is two-score game before the 2-minute mark. The Lions had pretty much good control of this game. I'd say
Buccaneers made it
about the
interesting
start of the
towards
fourth
the end,
quarter.
though.
They did. It was close for most of it. You kind of still had a sense constantly that Jared Goff was in control.
Hmm.
They leaned a little more heavily on the run, the Lions did, than I was maybe expecting, but Jared Goff still went out there and threw
Hmm.
40 plus passes, as he does.
Hmm.
I mean, it was a laser show from the field, or through the air, rather, and that's kind of what we expected. Baker Mayfield throwing for 350 yards, a little concerning for the Lions going into next week's matchup. Brock Purdy's no Baker in the fact that he doesn't really have that kind of arm, but I mean, Niners live and die off the run after catch. If you're not going to tackle well, they're just going to kind of feast on you. So, listen, kind of like I was saying for every team, it's exciting. I love that the Lions won. They're my favorite, not my favorite, but they're they're my heart and soul to win it all. Like
Hmm.
How can you not root for this team? I want them to win so very badly. I'm just happy for Jared Goff, and this is coming from someone who just absolutely took dumps on him for years when he was with the Rams. Like I up and down was mean to this man. Like they paid him, he was not worth this money. My
We
Patriots beat
talked
him in the Super Bowl.
we talked about his resurgence last week, and it's just showing again here. I'm impressed. I'm happy for him. I hope it continues because it's a great story. I mean, both are great stories. Brock Purdy, I mean, it's going to be shouted to the cows come home if they make the Super Bowl. Mr. Irrelevant playing in the Super Bowl. Or Jared Goff, who really was kind of cast out of LA, now reviving his career on the Detroit Lions of all teams. No one expected this. They thought, okay,
Like he
he'll be
wasn't
a
throwing
bridge
in that trade.
quarterback. He'll be a bridge quarterback, and then they'll draft someone. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen.
No, he was a throw-in to make salaries match
Mm-hmm.
in the frickin'
Stafford
the
trade.
Matthew Stafford trade. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was a throw-in. He was
Mm-hmm.
not meant to be this good, and he wasn't for the first year. But here we are. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to the NFC Championship, and that's a big deal.
Yep.
That's a huge, huge deal for this Lions team. Like, ask any Detroit fan. They haven't been this happy in a long
Oh
time.
no, especially
So
with the Pistons there. Oh man, don't worry about them. You got the Lions right now. Just be happy and good luck
live
coming
in the
up.
moment.
Yes, live in the moment.
You never know when it can end, so just live in the
Mhm.
moment. But I mean, yeah, let's touch a little bit on the Bucks. I mean, they made it to the divisional round. Everyone kind of just cast them off this season. It's great they made it this far, but I mean, this is also the expected result.
Mhm.
I mean, I never thought they were going to make it to the NFC Championship. I thought it would be pretty wild. And as fun as this season was for the Bucks, I mean, this might just be one of those kind of weird little seasons we see. Like this isn't repeated. I'm gonna say that. I like Evans is a free agent. Baker's a free agent. I,
Mhm.
I
I think they
assume you
retained
resign
Baker
Baker,
though, but
but Mike Evans is probably gone. You have a ton of guys on defense. I want to say Levante David maybe was on a 1 year deal. He's probably gone.
as much
It was
as you
awesome.
think,
But listen, credit to Todd Bowles. Like as much as Todd Bowles has gotten over the years, I'm so happy for them.
mm,
But this is it was a little Cinderella run. That's all it's going to end up, unfortunately, being. I think there's no last here, which I
to
mean,
counter your point a little bit, I do think there's a good chance they can retain some of their free agents just because they didn't fall off as bad as many expected them to. I think they're still trying to win now. I don't think they're looking towards a rebuild. So I wouldn't count out like Levante David resigning, Mike Evans resigning for a little bit. I wouldn't entirely count that out. I think there's actually a pretty good chance a lot of them are still in Tampa next year. But I mean, they won the South. It's been the least competitive division, but they defeat the Eagles in the wild card and they give the Lions a run for their money. So I mean, honestly, if we're grading their season as a whole, that's to me that's a solid B plus or like an A because I didn't even expect them to be in the playoffs. If we're being honest.
no, not at all. And we'll do season recaps at a later
Oh,
time.
of
But
course, of
I just
course.
mean it's still concerning.
Hmm.
But we move on.
Yes.
Those were our four divisional round matchups. Again, all four for the most part were good games for most of it. But we look onwards. We
Mhm.
are now moving on to the championship round, and we'll see what that holds for us.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in and watching us on here on the Net Report. If you like the video and you like listening to these types of videos, please hit that subscribe button, like the video. It helps us out a ton. And yeah, I'm Chris. You can
I'm
find me,
Jacob. You can find me at Jacob Kelly USF on X/Twitter.
and I'm Chris. You can find me on Twitter at C_Rod223. Thank you for tuning in and have a great one.